Hi all. So for this video, we're going to talk about different ways to move shapes. And so I'm showing you here on the screen some real life examples of these different ways to move shapes. So the first one here is a tree that is reflected in this lake. So we're going to be talking about reflections of shapes. Down here, we have some windmills where the propeller or the um, the bands of this windmill are rotating around in a circle. So we're going to be talking about rotations of shapes. And then over here, we have some pillars, and the same shape is being translated or moved to different locations. So we're going to be talking about translations of shapes. So now that you can see the real life examples of these movements of shapes, we're now going to talk about the geometric examples. First, let's talk about reflection. In reflection, we need a line of reflection. We need a line around which we're reflecting or across which we're reflecting our shape. And we start with a shape. This orange shape represents what we call the pre-image of the shape. So we label that with letters representing the vertices of the shape. And then over here we have what we call the image of the shape. And notice that it has the same letters, but we have this little hash mark next to each letter. So we call this A prime, B prime, C prime, and D prime. And that's the language that we use when we talk about reflection or translation or rotation. Anytime we're moving a shape, we have a pre-image and we have an image, and they will have the same letter names corresponding to the parts of the shape, but the image will have this prime symbol next to the letter. All right, so for translation, in a similar way, instead of having a line of reflection, we're going to have an arrow that tells us the direction and the distance of the translation. So this arrow symbolizes how far and in what direction we're translating or moving the shape. So here we have our shape. And if you could move this arrow over here, it would correspond to the distance and direction between G and G prime. Similarly, between F and F prime, between H and H prime. So this arrow is sort of like a key telling us the distance and direction of our translation. Notice that we're not changing the shape at all. These are what we call rigid transformations, and we talked about that in a previous chapter. So we're not changing the shape, we're just moving it in a direction and a distance for translation. In our next transformation, we have rotation. And for rotation, we have to define a center of rotation. That's a point at the center of the rotation. And then we also have to determine a degree of rotation and a direction, either counterclockwise or clockwise. So for this rotation, it is centered at point P, and it is rotating counterclockwise by 90 degrees. So what that means is if we draw a line from, and let me see if I can illustrate that. If we draw a line from L to P, and then from P to L prime, it should be a 90-degree angle. That's what it means when we are doing a 90-degree rotation. Similarly, if I draw a line from I to P, and then from P to I prime, it's going to give me a 90-degree angle. So that's what we mean by a 90-degree rotation. And in this case, it's counterclockwise. So we're going, whoops, I should use a curvy line. We're going in this general direction. If it was clockwise, we would be moving the direction of the clock that way, but we're not doing that. We're moving counterclockwise in our rotation. So hopefully that helps you to understand what we mean by these different transformations. And in our next video, we'll see how we actually can do those transformations ourselves.